Hey everyone, so today I've been given this rifle. This is a Crosman Phantom NP. So it's one of the guys that's actually working with me, and he said he was struggling to get groups out of this Springer. So it's a nitro piston Springer. So yeah, I think before I do anything to it, let's see what kind of group we can get, and then we'll see maybe if we find some of the faults, what we can do about it. You'll have to just excuse me, my voice is not completely with us at the moment. So I'm going to take 5 shots, let's see what kind of group we get, and then we'll see what we can do with this rifle. So one thing that's already quite apparent is if you look inside there, you can see that that pellet is not seating very nicely. So I think that's something we can definitely work on. Alright, let's take 5 shots. Okay, that's one. The pellets that I'm shooting is H&N Barracuda 21 grains. So quite a heavy pellet, but if I look at the specs of this gun with the nitro piston, it's putting out about 950 feet per second with a standard pellet. So I also don't want it to go supersonic, so I'm going to definitely try to keep it a bit light, a bit heavy. I mean, if you just have a look at that chick, not even near seated properly, so definitely a problem. Also using the artillery hold here, so just trying to see if that helps at all. But yeah, we'll at least have a baseline to work from. So I think what's probably happening is when we're closing up, it's actually snipping that pellet at the end. Alright, let's do one more. Alright, let's go have a look at that group quickly. Alright, so not the worst group I've ever seen. So the first shot was this side over here. Then we had 1, 2, 3, 4 here on the side. This is, obviously it's quite a big group, and this is from 15 meters. But I'm pretty sure we're going to be able to improve this somewhat. So let's go work a little bit on this rifle, and then we see what we get to. So when you're busy with a Springer, the first thing you always want to have a look at is these fasteners or screws that's holding the stock in place, because if those are not tight, then you're definitely going to have some issues. Let's just have a look here. Almost no pressure. There we go. Screws definitely loose, and you definitely want to make sure that these are nice and tight. Let's check the one on the other side. Can see I'm not even just the fingertips, and that screw is coming loose, so that's definitely not a good sign. We definitely want to make sure that those are nice and tight. And if you've got Loctite, you can, when you reassemble it, just put it back together with some Loctite, make sure that it stays tight. If you don't have Loctite, you can even use a dab of super glue. It will also work, and this will definitely improve the accuracy of your Springer rifle. Alright, let's have a look now at the one at the back there. So right at the back of that trigger guard, you can see there's the last fastener or screw that's going to be holding the stock in place. And there you go. That's a little bit better. You see I had to use some effort to be able to loosen that screw. So that's what we're looking for. We want the stock to be nice, firmly mounted. The last thing we want is to have the whole action moving inside the stock. That's going to wreak havoc on our accuracy. I must say I haven't had much to do with crossmans in the past. I know those of you that's in the States definitely probably grew up with crossmans and daisies, but here in South Africa we don't have that many crossmans around. But I was quite impressed by the quality of this rifle, and this is by no means an expensive rifle, yet the quality was still pretty good. Alright, so what we're going to do now is we actually want to work on the breech. So what we're going to do is we're going to just remove that barrel so that we can get easier access to the breech. So this fastener I'm busy loosening now is actually a machined screw, and it needs to have quite a tight tolerance because this is actually where the lever action is happening of your rifle. So yeah, we want that to have quite a nice tight tolerance so that it always closes up in the same place. So there's what we actually want to work on. So here you can see the breech seal is actually very nice, no problem on the breech seal, still in a good condition. However, there on the inside, that's where the pellet wasn't seating nicely. So what we're going to do, just going to put a small little chamfer on there, and that should solve our problem. Alright, so in order to work on this, the first thing we're going to have to do is just to remove this linkage arm, and you see it's got a bear trap mechanism there. So right behind that piece that we want to remove there's a circle there. I don't know if you can see it nicely, but you need to basically pull it into the circle and then you'll be able to pull it out. Alright, there we go. So there you see it just clipped out, and that's the circle portion. So that needs to be in the circle portion on that tube in order for it to be able to come out there. Alright, so we'll just remember that when we go to put it back. So here I've got the breech inside the vise now. Then I've just got a little Allen cap screw with a nut on the end, and then some sandpaper and some double-sided tape. This is the same method that I used in order to recrown a barrel if I need to recrown a barrel. So what I've got is just sandpaper on the other side of the double-sided tape. Start off with like a 320, and then I'll work my way up to about a 600. So that's all we need. Just going to use that shape of the head on that nut, and that's going to work nicely for us. So I actually, before I started this, I cut this even smaller into 4 little pieces. This was a bit too big, and I could have probably removed the breech seal, but to be honest with you, I think there was more likelihood of damaging the breech seal when doing this. So definitely I just left it in place. And whenever you do this, you want to make sure that you don't just hold the gun steady in one place, because it's going to give you kind of a funny shape. You always want to kind of give it like a turning motion on the top. And what this does is this makes sure that your hole stays concentric and not kind of like a clover kind of shape. So yeah, just carry on going like this till you see you've got a nice little chamfer. Don't be in a rush, and you don't have to put too much pressure on it. Just let the sandpaper do the work. When you see this piece is finished, just put on a new piece, and then once you think you've done enough, then what you can do is just get a a pellet and put it in there and see if it seats nicely. If it seats nicely, then you know that you're good to go. And yeah, while you're busy with this, you can probably argue with your children as well. You know that they've got a mind of their own, and they're not too worried about what you're busy with. So sometimes you have to handle that in between as well. Alright, so I'm still going with the 320 here, and just getting a nice chamfer on there now. There's my eldest son also coming to check what's going on. Alright, and I think you'll see that it's really starting to take shape now. And it's one thing I must say, most springers, especially the brake barrels, you want to make sure that that pellet seats absolutely in the same place every single time. So this is obviously not an issue when it comes to PCPs, because the pellet probe will make sure that the pellet is always positioned in the same place. But with the brake barrel, whether it's a brake barrel or even an underlever, make sure that there we go. Doesn't that look beautiful? Nice little chamfer on there, and I'm pretty sure the pellet is going to seat much better now, and that will definitely improve our accuracy tenfold as well. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to finish up this breech, just giving it a bit of a chamfer. After this 320 sandpaper, I'll move over to a 600, and then we'll just test it like that for now. I mean, it doesn't help we work on too many things at one go. We want to just do 1 or 2 items at a time, and then we'll test, and then we'll see if we've solved the problem. So what I'm going to now is a 600 grit sandpaper. So this is just to finish it off, to polish it up nicely, make sure that it's as smooth as silk there where the pellet needs to go in, and yeah, make sure that the pellet is seating properly. And like I said, don't rush this, just take your time. You're going to do more damage if you rush it. Alright, so I'm pretty happy with that. It looks pretty good, nice and polished up. So this is now with the pellet inside, and there you can see that's what we want. We want the pellet to seat absolutely perfectly, and it must be flush. It must just be the seal that's actually catching on the breech portion. So perfect, just what we want. Happy days. So now I'm going to start to assemble the gun again. So put in the linkage, and now I'm just going to put in that barrel screw or the breech screw. And like I said before, this is a machine screw, so this is just to make sure that every time we open and close the rifle that it comes to the exact same position. So the tolerances on this screw is quite tight, but not difficult to put this back into place. Lock it in position. Alright, and then the next thing that we want to do is put the stock back. So just remember guys, I haven't removed the scope here. If you wanted to, you could definitely remove the scope if you're worried about damaging the scope or something like that, but it's not always necessary, so I didn't do it in this case. So let's put the stock back on. As I mentioned earlier, just remember, when you put these fasteners back, you want them to be nice and tight so that there's no movement between the actual action of the gun and the stock itself. So what you're going to see me doing is I'm going to put the 3 screws in, and I'm not going to tighten them all the way, just going to put them in position so that they're almost all the way, and then make sure that all the screws are installed, and then I'm going to lock them all in position. And unfortunately my camera died at some portion here. My phone's battery went flat, so you'll have to just excuse that. But like I mentioned previously, if you are happy with it, then add a bit of Loctite or add a tiny bit of super glue, and then screw it to make sure it's nice and tight. Then you shouldn't have any issues with your stock coming loose. So that's the back one done. We're now going to put the 2 front ones in, and remember now I haven't tightened that back one yet.
I'll go back after. So basically what we were making sure of here is that all the screws are lining up, that they're all into their threads, because if you tighten one and the others are not lined up yet, you could damage the threads. And then yeah, lock everything in position.
Right, so all I've done is just to open up the breech a little bit, just so the pellet seats a little bit better. And then what I've also done is I've made sure that the screws that goes into the stock is nice and tight, because they're a bit loose. Let's take another 5 shots and let's see if there's an improvement. Also need to bear in mind, I haven't tested any pellets with this, so I'm taking these straight out of the tin. So it is possible to get a flyer or two. I can feel these pellets, some are going in easy, some are going in a bit tight. Oh well, there's 2 that's touching each other there, so that's a good sign. Make that 3. Alright, so definitely an improvement. Let me take you down and show you what it looks like. Alright, so we did have 1 flyer down the bottom here. That was the second shot. But the other 4 shots are all touching each other here. Check there. I can literally cover it with my pinky. So it's not very far. It's 15 meters. So not a far distance. But if you can be accurate at 15, then definitely you can stretch it out to probably at least a 25 or a 30 meters easily. This one could have just been a fault on the pellet. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to just make another dot over here, and then we'll do another 5 pellets, and let's see if we can get a nice tight group, all 5 pellets in together. Alright, so let's do 5 more shots. See what happens. See, that pellet just fell in there. So this one's head size is definitely a lot smaller. Let's see if it makes a difference. No, still in the group. must say, this is probably the worst turn of H&N I've ever seen. Pellets are just terrible. Alright, let's see. Shot number 4. Oh, also in the group. Okay, last one. There you have it. Let's go have a look at that group quick. Alright, so there you have it. Absolutely brilliant. There, I can cover that whole hole with probably with my pinky. Check at that. And I'm by no means an expert with a Springer, so definitely very, very happy with that. Seems like what we've done has worked. I just enlarged the breech portion a little bit just so the pellet seats a bit better. And then the other thing that I've done as well is just to make sure that the fasteners that's holding the stock in place are nice and tight. And definitely you can see the improvement already. So I'm going to leave it as is and give it back to my work companion, and I'm sure he's going to be pretty chuffed. Him and his grandson will be shooting again. Alright, so still busy with the Springer. I thought let's really make it a nice challenge. I'm sitting now at 25 meters, and I've got some bottle caps set up there. Let's see if we can get some of these bottle caps done. 25 meters. One. Two. Just remember, I'm not the best Springer shooter in the world, so this is really taking a lot of effort from me. Three. What's the chances of me getting 5 out of 5? Highly unlikely. Alright, really enjoying this for a change. Some making me feel better. It's not giving me my voice back yet, but maybe if I get 5 out of 5. Awesome. Alright, so there you have it, guys. See you next time. And you need to work on your Springer. If you need to work on your Springer, now you know what to do. Just some of the basics that you need to look at. Until next time, guys, happy shooting. See you around.